Good morning. My team and I are going to talk about World War II. World War II was a global war that lasted from 1939 to 1945. The vast majority of the world's countries, including all the great powers, eventually formed two opposing military alliances, the Allies and the Axis. A state of total war emerged, directly involving more than 100 million people from more than 30 countries. The major participants threw their entire economic, industrial, and scientific capabilities behind the war effort, blurring the distinction between civilian and military resources. World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history, marked by 70 to 85 million fatalities, most of whom were civilians in the Soviet Union and China. It included massacres, genocides, including the Holocaust, strategic bombing, premeditated death from starvation and disease, and the only use of nuclear weapons in war.
The Axis advanced in the Pacific held in 1942, when Japan lost the critical Battle of Midway. Later, Germany and Italy were defeated in North Africa and then decisively at Stalingrad in the Soviet Union. Key setbacks in 1943, which included a series of German defeats on the Eastern Front, the Allied invasion of Sicily and Italy, and Allied victories in the Pacific, cost the Axis its initiative and forced it into strategic retreat on all fronts. In 1944, the Western Allies invaded German-occupied France, while the Soviet Union regained its territorial losses and turned toward Germany and its allies during 1944 and 1945. The Japanese suffered major reversals in mainland Asia, in central China, South China, and Burma, while the Allies crippled the Japanese Navy and captured key Western Pacific island. The war in Europe concluded with an invasion of Germany by the Western Allies and the Soviet Union, culminating in the capture of Berlin by Soviet troops. The suicide of Adolf Hitler and the German unconditional surrender of 8 May. The suicide of Adolf Hitler and the German unconditional surrender on 8 May 1945, following the Potsdam Declaration by the Allies on 26 July 1945, and the refusal of Japan to surrender under its terms. The United States dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on 6 and 9 August, respectively, with an invasion of the Japanese archipelago imminent. The possibility of additional atomic bombing, the Soviet entry into the war against Japan and its invasion of Manchuria. Japan announced its intention to surrender on 15 August 1945, cementing total victory in Asia for the Allies. Tribunals were set up by the Allies, and war crimes trials were conducted in the wake of the war, both against the German and against the Japanese.
Japan, which aimed to dominate Asia and the Pacific, was at war with China by 1937. Though neither side has declared war on another, World War II is generally said to have begun on September 1, 1939, with the invasion of Poland by Germany and subsequent declarations of war on Germany by France and the United Kingdom. From late 1939 to early 1941, in a series of campaigns and treaties, Germany conquered or controlled much of continental Europe and formed the Axis alliance with Italy and Japan under the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pacts of August 1939. Germany and the Soviet Union partitioned and annexed territories of their European neighbors, Poland, Finland, Romania, and the Baltic states. Following the one set of campaigns in North Africa and East Africa, and the fall of France in mid-1940, the war continued primarily between the European Axis powers and the British Empire. War in the Balkans, the Arab Battle of Britain, the Blitz, and the Long Battle of the Atlantic followed on 22 June 1941. The European Axis power launched an invasion of the Soviet Union, opening the largest land theater of war in history. This Eastern Front trapped the Axis, most crucially the German involvement in war of attrition. In December 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the United States as well European colonies in the Pacific, following an immediate U.S. declaration of war against Japan, supported by one from Great Britain. The European Axis power quickly declared war on the U.S. in solidarity with their Japanese ally. Rapid Japanese conquest over much of the Western Pacific issued, perceived by some in Asia as liberation from Western dominance and resulting in the support of several armies from defeated territories.
So, we talk about invasion, Holocaust, nuclear bomb, but what was the real problem? In my opinion, the problem is not only the war and its repercussions. For me, the problem is something that is still here: hatred and intolerance. And when I say hatred, I mean racism, misogyny, crime, etc. What I mean is that maybe it solved the war, but not the problems that made the war. I think the only solution to solve this problem is to make people aware of equality and make it clear that all people have the same rights. Such that may sound so generic and uninspired, but if one day we take it seriously, maybe we can solve the problem.